What's up? So I'm back with some more content for tonight. Um, Follow up that somewhat long video. I didn't know it was going to take that long on Jay Z and his legacy in hip hop. Definitely check that out uh, and see what I had to say on Jay Z. And if this is the perfect time for a Jay Z comeback to music. But anyway, back to the Clipse album. Let God Sort 'Em Out dropped 2 weeks ago, and it's the buzz of the hip hop world right now. It definitely shows that legacy hip hop is back, traditional hip hop is back, lyrics are back. You know what I mean? Uh, I want to talk about a little bit about the success of that song, and we're going to get to a video with from according to hip hop. Shout out to Mike D, according to hip hop on that. But I just want to just highlight the success of this album first. This album debuted number 4 on Billboard, was projected initially to sell 90K. It sold 119K. Okay, you know how big that is to sell, you know, 30K more or um, almost 40% more than what you're supposed to sell. You know what I mean? Well, actually 30%. You know what I mean? Going get a little bit ahead of myself, but almost 30% more than what you were projected to sell. That's a big deal. Number 1 rap album in the country, and actually had count them, 6 songs in the top 100. Whips and Chains at 42. So Be It at 62. Ace Trumpets at 78. POV with Tyler at 65. Birds Don't Sing at 92. And Mike Tyson Blow to the Face at 95. I mean, real hip hop is back, y'all. And I just want to shout out the success of that and what this means for real hip hop and legacy hip hop. But let's go to Mike D's video and we could talk about that. Let me turn on and share the screen. Let's get talking to that and its impact on the game.
Clipse, Let God Sort Them Out class. Now, hear me out. First things first, do people believe in the instant classic? Now, I've heard many say they don't believe in instant classics. Things need time to, get revered to that magnitude. I totally disagree. I do believe in instant classics. I remember, as soon as Illmatic hit, that was a classic. As soon as Doggy Style hit, that was a classic. As soon as Get Rich or Die Trying hit, whether people wanted to admit it or not, that was a classic. And that ended up being a classic. An album also doesn't have to be a perfect album to, be a classic. It doesn't have to be every single song is a 10. There are no missteps, there are no holes. I used to believe.
Well, I kind of disagree with that. In that, I think you got to be damn near flawless to be classic. Maybe have one okay song on there, but as far as the classic debate with this song, with this album, Let God Sort 'Em Out, uh, I don't want to go there yet. But if it looks like a classic, smells like a classic, it walks like a classic, talks like a classic, you know, it is a classic. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying. Anyway, it's got all the makings of it. I'm still trying to hold out and see a little bit of the staying power of this album. I want to see how this does in really the third week after this. But I tell you what, this is the first album in a long time that's addictive. You know, I did get that feeling. You referenced Get Rich or Die Trying. That was an addictive album. You know what I mean? Illmatic was an addictive album where you can't help but it's like, I gotta listen to this album. I get out of work, I gotta listen to this album. I'm in the gym, the album has gotta be on. Dark as Hell is Hot was like that. Good Kid, Mad City was like that. Get Rich or Die Trying was like that, you know. This has that vibe. And I really want to talk about the impact of this album because I think that the numbers that it moved is really, even though it's not number one, is more monumental because it's an independent album. It only got distribution and promo from Rock Nation, but this doesn't get the promo and the push that a Drake or even a Travis Scott album got. You know what I mean? So this was a monumental project. And it shows that I think real hip hop fans are coming back to the mainstream. Like it's showing that, and I think it took the Clipse to do this to really people to buy into legacy hip hop as to, hey, the greats are still making albums. They're still making quality hip hop. I think I think a good portion of older hip hop fans have moved on and said, we're just going to listen to uh, our old stuff and play that. And a lot of them didn't even, a good portion of people didn't even know Nas put out like 5 albums or 6 albums in 5 years. But I think albums like this that has a little bit of mainstream buzz and a little bit of mainstream pull pulls people back to the mainstream. You know what I mean? And now they're paying attention and they like what they hear. You know what I mean? So I think this is a big deal. And I'll go a little bit more. I'm not gonna go too far with this, but
Believe that. And I'm not sitting here, preaching to you guys about that and,
mhm,
coming down on people who do believe that, because I used to believe that. I used to believe if it was one song that was off on the album, it could prevent it from being a classic. I think the Blueprint taught me that, that's not the truth. I mean, the Blueprint has its holes in it, but it's still a classic, right?
yeah,
I think if we're talking
I'll give
about
him one song.
an album being a classic already, and again, hear me out. I don't think that, Let God Sort Him Out is a perfect album. But I think again, an album has to be a game changer to be considered a classic. And I think that just from the rollout and the campaign that Push and Malice have been going on alone, this album is a game changer. And
I want to speak to that too. I think that the way that they went about hip hop media to promote this album was A1. Now, see, in the 90s and 2000s, artists would go to the radio station outlets to promote their albums. Maybe they might do a TRL or a 106 in Park, but that was their album promotion. Now we're in the pod era. Now we're in the era of YouTube media. And I think the biggest game changer that they did is they went to Joe Budden's podcast. They went to the Breakfast Club, which is really a radio station, but Breakfast Club is a major podcast. They went to Joe and Jada. They did the podcast circuit. That's huge. And you are going to see more artists do that, especially I think the older artists, the legacy artists, start to do this more because really older hip hop fans, and I'm just going to let this secret out there. If you're 40 and over, 35 and over, pretty much you're listening to more podcasts than new mainstream hip hop. You're listening to the artists you like. You're listening to podcasts. You're a podcast junkie. And everybody knows the major pods. And I think that the Clipse playing the podcast circuit, and especially Drink Champs is another one. I think Pusha did Drink Champs, but I don't think Clipse did Drink Champs on this go around. But Drink Champs is another one. The podcast circuit is going to play a huge role in bringing back the legacy acts and bringing them back to the mainstream because a lot of the older hip hop heads listen to podcasts and in the podcast culture. And that's going to counter the younger kids going with the streaming culture. because that's what the streamers are doing, is promoting like the young acts, promoting their music. So that's going to counter that. I do think it's interesting though. I mean, I just have a feeling because I had heard a rumor that Kai's looking at a deal with Rock Nation. I think you're going to see more legacy acts with Kai Sanat. But we'll see where that goes. But I think Kai's trying to be bigger than the streamers that are in his on his peer scale or peer group right now. So I think legacy acts are going to start to play some streamers like Kai Sanat.
I think that this album gets a ball rolling, gets a momentum rolling. I mean, we're seeing it already. The summer's heating up. The year is heating up since this album dropped. And I think that we're gonna see more of that. Now, granted, we did get that Mass Appeal announcement and those rollouts before Let God Sort Them Out came out, but I do believe that the Let God Sort Them Out campaign had already been rolling as well. So the momentum of this album has been going for a minute now. And for the people like myself who thought that the momentum was actually going to stop when the album dropped, we've been totally fooled. The momentum has just intensified. These guys have been on every single platform you can think of. I mean, they performed at the ESPYs. They're everywhere. I mean, I couldn't even go down the line of all of the interviews, all of the appearances, all of the performances, all the conversations that Clipse have had. I haven't seen a campaign like this. I don't want to say in a long time, but I'm gonna be honest, man. I really haven't seen a campaign or a rollout like this ever. If we're talking about being everywhere, because this takes on like the traditional marketing rollout where artists were going from radio station to radio station.
And again, I think the difference here is they played the podcast circuit in addition to the radio station circuit. And see, that's the big difference. And that's really where majority of 30, 35, 40 and over consume their information from, as opposed to what's out in mainstream media.
And television station to television station. But see, with those local airwaves, you were only hearing that in your local market. So I'm not saying that they're working harder than anybody's ever worked before, but we're seeing it in ways that we didn't see before. Like I wouldn't hear Jay-Z campaigning for the blueprint in Charlotte, North Carolina when I'm in Atlanta, right? I remember when Jay was on the radio here in Atlanta, they was saying stuff like, man, everything on the album's hot, even the air in between the songs. And congratulations on them doing 119,000 units the first week. I think that we're going to see that sustain as well because of the campaign rollout. What this campaign rollout, and we're going to have to wait and see. I think it's a game changer in the sense where more artists have a clearer viewpoint of what the possibilities are and how hard they can actually campaign for one record. Now,
What I will say
these are the
is,
question marks, and we're at the
hold on,
very beginning of this. But
I will say this: if they do more than half, if they do 60 or they do 70 or 80 in the second week, that's going to be major. That's going to show that the momentum's still going with this album. If they do another 100, then this album's going off like hotcakes. Yeah, he's selling like hotcakes if it's doing another 100. And I think the second week is going to be interesting, but I think the momentum is still going on this album, man. And it's crazy. And again, that's a big number, that 119 that they did. And it's going to be interesting to see if they could keep that up in the second week. But the Whips and Chains video just dropped and it's getting a lot of views. They're probably going to drop another video. They got to drop a video for Mike Tyson blow to the face. I can't wait for that. And listen, I'm holding out. I still think there's a guest feature verse for Jay-Z out there. I do see a remix in the future coming, even on a video version or a deluxe version. And I'm starting to think there is going to be a deluxe version with this album. So I think there's more to come. This album has a shot of going gold and maybe even gold plus. And it's definitely going to be in the Grammy conversation as well. So watch out.
but we're going to have to see if this campaign rollout not only affects the first week, because at this point, to me, it's not really about the first week. Is this going to keep this album alive for the rest of the year? And it quite possibly can, because there's so much content that you can't even get to until, until later, and you're going to be back down with the amount of work and the amount of content that is around this album and surrounding this album. So I think that the backlog of content that they've done is really going to be able to keep this album fresh, and we'll.
That's the truth, because I'm listening to songs now and I'm picking up on quadruple entendres that I never even picked up on. And the thing about it is, it's simple lyrics. It's not like they're rapping some, you know, lyrical miracle stuff or some rapidy rap stuff. It's simple lyrics, but there's so many layers to each verse that you got to go back and you get a different take on each song, like almost all the time. It's crazy how many layers are on this. And real hip hop listeners, if you're a real hip hop listener, this is a gem of an album. So I absolutely see where he comes with the instant classic tape, because I'm almost there, right there with him on that one.
See how they roll out singles. I think the level of interest in this album is going to allow them to continuously roll out singles throughout the rest of the year. Whereas usually, if we're talking about, album releases in the digital era, they go strong for the first couple of weeks and then they wane off. I think that this rollout's going to pay off in that way. And again, with this being a quality album and with this possibly being a blueprint for, other artists to be able to roll out albums in this way, artists that are in the machine or possibly not even in the machine, and people doing their version of this rollout, I think that this album could possibly be considered a classic. I mean, I'm going to go with a yes. I think that it can fall in the instant classic category.
I'll stop there with that one. But yeah, I think that the first week is an indicator how big this album was. But I think a couple of things that Mike said. One, the rollout builds to that, and I think the momentum is going to still keep it going. I think they're going to put out multiple singles, but multiple videos. I think and the video for Whips and Chains, I almost thought about doing a whole pod on that alone, because that video is something special. A lot of imagery, a lot of hidden context in that, and they got more videos coming. You know what I mean? They definitely have more videos coming on that. So I think the singles, they're probably going to drop about 4 singles off of this. This has a good shot of going gold, possibly platinum, and I think the momentum is going to keep going. But tell me what you think. One, are you impressed with how this is done performance-wise for a legacy hip-hop act? And is this the signal to other legacy acts that this rollout is how you got to do it to reintroduce yourself to the world? Because you got to think, the Clipse are coming back after 20 years not being in the game. And I think it's fantastic what they've done. And is this the platform, going to the podcast circuit to promote your album and talk hip hop? Is this the way to go? Because I think this is excellent rollout, and I am leaning on the classic side. I know I gave a strong 9 out of 10. This might be going on 9.5 out of 10. Like, I think the classic conversation is on the table, but we got more to talk about this album. I got a little debate coming up in a week or so, comparing this album to some other current albums of note, hint, hint, in the future. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, enjoy the rest of your night. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I'm one away from 300 subscribers. We just need one more person to sub. So definitely check out my content, see what you like, share, and subscribe. We got more reviews coming. Hip hop is heating up. The hip hop hot stove is heating up. We got some hot albums coming. We got the Seven Legends series still going on. I think Ghostface is up next, coming on Mass Appeal Records. Nas and Primo are coming, and we got Alfredo 2 this weekend. So we have a lot of hip hop to discuss. Stay tuned for more videos and more content soon, and enjoy the rest of y'all night. All right, peace.